We are back with our part 2 of chapter 2 of book Think and Grow Rich by Robert T. Kiyosaki. Let's start. This pattern of treating your home as an investment and the philosophy that a pay raise means you can buy a larger home or spend more is the foundation of today's debt-ridden society. Increased spending throws families into greater debt and into more financial uncertainty, even though they may be advancing in their jobs and receiving pay raises. This is high risk living caused by weak financial education. The massive loss of jobs in recent times proves how shaky the middle class really is financially. Company pension plans are being replaced by 401k plans. Social security is obviously in trouble and can't be relied upon as a source of retirement. Panic has set in for the middle class. Today, mutual funds are popular because they supposedly represent safety. Average mutual fund buyers are too busy working to pay taxes and mortgages, save for their children's college, and pay off credit cards. They do not have time to study investing, so they rely on their expertise of the manager of a mutual fund. Also, because of the mutual fund includes many different types of investment, they feel their money is safer because it diversified. This educated middle class subscribes to the dogma put out by mutual fund brokers and financial planners. Play it safe, avoid risk. Fast forward to today's pension plans. Since Enron, it has become clear that pension plans are in trouble. Even government pension plans, such as those in Greece, Italy, and California, cannot pay out what is owed to retirees. So, a retirement plan is no longer the guarantee it once was, a security for old age and retirement. The real tragedy is that the lack of early financial education is what creates the risk faced by average middle class people. The reason they have to face play it safe is because their financial positions are tenuous or at best. Their financial sheets are not balanced. Instead, they are loaded with liabilities and have no real assets that generate income. Typically, their only source of income is their paychecks. Their livelihood becomes entirely dependent on their employers, so when genuine deals of a lifetime come along, these people can't take advantages of them because they are working so hard, are taxed to the max, and are loaded with debt. As I said at the start of this section, the most important rule is to know the difference between an asset and a liability. Once you understand the difference, concentrate your efforts on buying income generating assets. That's the best way to get started on a path to becoming rich. Keep doing that, and your asset column will grow. Keep liabilities and expenses down so more money is available to continue and pouring into the asset column. Soon the asset base will be so deep that you can afford to take at your speculative investment that may have returns of 100% to infinity. $5,000 investment that are soon turned into $1 million or more. Investment that the middle class calls too risky. The investment is not risky for the financial literate. If you do what the masses do, you get the following picture: income work of the company, salary expenses work for the government, taxes, assets, liabilities work for the bank, mortgage. As an employee who is also a homeowner owner, your working efforts are generally as follow. You work for the company. Employees make their business owner or the shareholders rich, not themselves. Your efforts and success will help provide for the owner's success and retirement. Your work for the government. The government takes its share from your paychecks before you even see it. By working harder, you simply increases the amount of taxes given by the government. Most people work from January to May just for the government. You work for the bank. After taxes, your next largest expenses is usually your mortgage and credit card debt. The problem with simple working harder is that each of these three levels take a greater share of the increased efforts. You need to learn how to have your increased efforts benefit you and your family directly. Once you have decided to concentrate on minding your own business, focusing your efforts on acquiring assets instead of a bigger paychecks. How do you set your goals? Most people must keep their job and rely on their wages to fund their acquisition of assets. As their assets grow, how do they measure the extent of their success? When does someone know that they are rich, that they have wealth? As well as having my own definitions for secrets and liabilities, I also have my own definition for wealth. Actually, I borrowed it from a man named R. Buckminster Fuller. Oh, sorry. Some call him a quack and others call him ingenious. Years ago, he got architects buzzing because he applied for a patent for something called a geodesic dome. But in the application, Fuller also said something about wealth. It was pretty confusing at first, but after reading it, it began to make some sense. Wealth is a person's ability to service so many number of days forward, or if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many numbers of days forward, or if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? Unlike net worth, what is the difference between your assets and liabilities? And it often filled with a person's expensive junk and opinions of what things are worth. This definition creates the possibility of developing a truly accurate measurement. I could not measure and know where I was in terms of my goal to become financially independent. Although net worth often includes non cash producing assets like stuff you bought that now sits in your garage. Wealth measures how much your money how much money your money is making, and therefore your financial survivability. Wealth is the measure of cash flow for the from the assets column compared with the expense of columns. Let's use an example. Let's say I have a cash flow from my asset column of $1,000 a month and I have monthly expenses of $2,000. What is my wealth? Let's go back to Fuller's definition. Using this definition, how many days forward can I survive? Assuming a 30-day month, I have enough cash flow for half a month. When I achieve $2,000 a month cash flow from my assets, then I will be wealthy. So when I am not yet rich, I am wealthy. I have now income generated from assets each month that fully cover my monthly expenses. If I want to increase my expenses, I first must increase my cash flow to maintain this level of wealth. Also note that it is at this point that I am no longer dependent on my wages. I have focused on and been successful in building an asset column that has made me financially independent. If I quit my job today, I would be able to cover my monthly expenses with the cash flow from my assets. My next goal would be to have the excess cash flow from my assets reinvested into the asset column. The more money that goes into my asset column, the more my asset column grow. The more my asset grow, the more my cash flow grows. And as long as I keep my expenses less than the cash flow, and from these assets I grow richer with more and more income from sources other than my physical labor. As this reinvestment process continues, I am well on my way to becoming rich. Just remember this simple observation: the rich buy assets, the poor only have expenses. The middle class buy liabilities they think are assets. So, how do I start minding my own business? What is the answer? Listen to the founder of McDonald's in the next chapter. Okay. Study session chapter 2, lesson 2: Why teach financially literacy. Chapter 2, chapter summary. We revisit Robert and Mike. Some 3.5 decades later, Mike has taken over his father's company and is doing an even better job than the rich dad did. As for Robert, he retired in 1994 at the age of 47. He and his wife wealth is growing automatically like a well established tree. He shares a story of the 1923 meeting of some of the greatest leaders and the richest businessmen, men who owned the largest steel and gas company, who ran the New York Stock Exchange. NYSE. Oh fuck. and who sat on President Harding's cabinet. 25 years later, most of their lives had ended tragically, with the man either broke, exiled, or in prison. In 1929, stock crash and Great Depression likely played a part of their fates, but today we live in a time of even more turmoil and exchange that they did. More important than money to our survival is our education, the ability to learn. It is not how much you make, but how much you keep, and how many generations you keep it. So when people ask Robert where to get started getting rich, he gives them the same answer his rich dad gave him. If you want to be rich, you need to be financially literate. Robert compares the way many people act to building a skyscraper on a slab made for a small home, because kids graduate school with the little financial education they launch into their adults lives chasing the American dream, but find themselves deep in debt. The only way out that they can see is a get rich strategy, but without having that financial literacy background, their efforts are like building a skyscraper on a weak foundation, and instead of creating the Empire State Building, they end up with the Leaning Tower of Suburbia. Robert and his childhood friend Mike, however, were giving a strong foundation worthy of a skyscraper. Thanks to the teaching of the rich dad, accounting as a subject is boring, confusing, and absolutely crucial to financial success. To make it accessible to kids, Rich Dad used pictures to teach it to the two boys. Only later did he start adding numbers to guide the boys through key concepts. Rule number one, Robert says, is that you must know the difference between an asset and a liability, and only buy asset. That's all you need to know, but despite it being so simple, it's something that many people don't understand. When Rich Dad first explained it to the two now teenagers, they thought he was kidding. How could adults not understand this? Shouldn't everyone be rich? The problem is the most people have been educated differently by bankers, financial planners, and others. So they must unlearn what they think they know. Some find this demeaning to return to such a basic introduction. The true definition of assets and liabilities lie not in words but in numbers. Robert uses drawing to help readers the same way Rich Dad used them to help him. This is the cash flow pattern of an asset. The top part of the diagram is an income statement, often called a profit and loss statement. It measures income and expenses, money in, money out. The lower part of the diagram is a balance sheet. It's called the balance. It's supposed to balance assets against liabilities. वही डायग्राम है जो मैंने आप लोगों को अच्छे से समझाया था. This is the cash flow pattern of a liability. A liability takes money out of your pocket. This is the same diagram I have taught you in last lecture, I think. Want to be rich? Buy assets. It seems simple, but so many people struggle because they buy liabilities. If you want to gain and maintain wealth, you must build your understanding. It's not just straight numbers, it's how the numbers tell a story. Follow the arrows in each of these diagrams to see where the money is flowing or cash flow. It will tell you the story, the plot of that financial situation. जॉब इनकम सैलरी ये है पुअर का, ये है मिडिल का. जॉब सैलरी लाइबिलिटीज. रिच का आता है वेल्दी पर्सन का. इनकम एसेट्स, एसेट इनकम, एसेट इनकम, एसेट इनकम, एसेट इनकम, एसेट इनकम, एसेट इनकम. चलता रहेगा चलता रहेगा, और ये बढ़ता रहता है. एसेट्स ग्रो करते रहते हैं अगर कोई बीच में गड़बड़ ना होती है तो. Through these simplified diagrams, the cash flow tells the story of how each person handles money. Often, those in debt think the answer is to make more money, but not only will more money not always solve their problems, it may compound them. It's why many people who get a sudden windfall through the lottery or an Inheritance, for instance, is so quickly burned through it. An increase in cash only results in an increase in spending. Robert tells the story of a young couple who get married and start their lives together. Their income begin to increase, but so their expenses. The couple is hit with the answer no. One expense number one expense for the most people tax, and for many people it not income tax that gives the biggest, but social security it's roughly 15%. Social security combined with the Medicare tax rate, all of which must be matched by the employer funds that the employer now can't pay the worker, and the employer is charged income tax on that amount too. The young couple is faced with those taxes, and when they buy a house, property tax, and to go with the new house is a new car, new furniture, new appliances. Suddenly, their liabilities go up, filling there with mortgage and credit card debts. The couple is trapped in the rat race. Add a baby to the mix, and they work harder, higher income that lead to higher taxes. They continue to rack up debt, eventually rolling it into their mortgage in a consolidation loan. But their habits have not changed, so the credit card debt continued. Not to mention, they extended their home loan for this couple, and so many like them. Their true problem is not knowing how to handle the money they have. It is caused by financial illiteracy and not understanding the true difference between an asset and a liability. So many people don't take the time to question whether something makes sense and simply follow the crowd. Often they mindlessly repeat what they have been told. Diversify. Your home is an asset. You get a tax break for going into better depth. Get a safe job. Don't make mistakes. Don't take risk. Because of the large amount of time Robert and Mike spent sitting in on meetings with Rich Dad and learning from the intelligent people he surrounded himself with, they learned a lot and learned to question the standard dogma taught at their school. It began to cause problem and made them grow distant from their teachers. Robert also began disagreeing with his own father over money matters, especially when it comes to his poor dad's view that his home was his greatest investment. In contrast, rich dad saw his home as a liability. Many people still believe that their home is an asset, but Robert teaches that a home is a liability because it takes money out of your pocket not only with taxes and expenses, but because of its loss in value and the opportunities missed when all your money is tied up in your house, and that causes you to lose out on the education of investment experience. That doesn't mean you can't even buy a bigger house, but make sure to first buy assets that will generate the cash flow to pay for the house. When there are enough assets to generate more than enough income to cover expenses, the balance is reinvested into assets, which grows the asset column on a balance sheet, which produces more income. The result is that the rich who understand the difference between asset and the liability gets richer. The middle class gets stuck in the rat race because they treat their homes as an asset instead of investing in income producing assets. They are also stuck because their salary is their primary source of income, and thus, when their primary income increases, so do their taxes. Many invest in mutual funds, paying a manager to handle their accounts because they don't have the time or the expertise to do it themselves. They feel like a mutual fund is playing it safe, and they have to pay it safe because their balance sheets are not balanced. They can't take advantage of opportunities because they are maxed out on debt and only have their salary bringing money in. Want to grow rich? Concentrate your efforts on buying income producing assets. When you truly understand what an asset is, keep liabilities and expenses low, you will deepen your asset column. Or how do you know when you are wealthy? Robert uses a definition by R. Buckminster Fuller. Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward, or if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? Another way of standing it, wealth is the measure of the cash flow from the asset column compared with the expense column. When your assets generate enough income to cover your expenses, you are wealthy even if you are not yet rich. Left hemisphere movements, look at the numbers and learn to read the story they are telling. Asset puts money in your pocket. If something takes money out of your pocket, it's not an asset, it's liability. Right hemisphere movement, the balance sheet draws drawing help explain the movement of money through different people's life. Subconscious moment. The fear of ostracism causes people to conform and not question commonly accepted opinions or popular trend, often to their financial detriment. What was Robert saying? Now it's time to reflect. Ask yourself, what is Robert saying in this quote and why does he say that? In this section, you do not need to agree or disagree with Robert. The goal is to understand what Robert is saying. Remember, this curriculum is designed to be cooperative and supporting. Two minds are better than one. If you do not understand what Robert is saying, do not shy away from it. Ask for help in understanding. Take the time, discuss each quote until you understand it. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. Intelligence solves problem and produces money. Money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. If you are going to build the Empire State Building, the first thing you need to do is dig a deep hole and pour a strong foundation. If you are going to build a home in the suburbs, all you need to do is pour a 6-inch slab of concrete. Most people in their drive to get rich are trying to build an Empire State Building on a 6-inch slab. Rich people acquire assets, the poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. If your pattern is to spend everything you get, most likely to an increase in cash will just result in an increase in spending. In 80% of most families, the financial story paints a picture of hard work to get ahead. However, this effort is for naught because they spend their lives buying liability instead of assets. By not fully understanding money, the vast majority of people allow its awesome power to control them. Additional questions. Now it's time to take the stories in this chapter along with the understanding of what Robert was saying and apply them to you and your life. Ask yourself the questions below and discuss them with your study partner. Be honest with yourself and your partner. If you do not like some of the answers you are giving, ask yourself if you are willing to change and accept the challenge to change your thoughts and mindset. Total are 9 questions. First question is, when did your financial education begin? Was it with this book or from another source? How did you react when you first read Robert's definition of assets and liabilities? How did you react when he started that a home is not an asset? Had you viewed yours as one? After he fully laid out his argument, did he change your mind? Which cash flow situation looks most like your life other than your home? Is that something that you thought was an asset that later revealed itself to be a liability? Would you agree with this statement? What is missing from most people's education is not how to make money but how to manage money. Why or why not? Rich dad told their boys that it's not the number that matter in accounting but what the numbers are telling you. What story do the numbers in your life tell? When was a time in your life that a seeming position accomplished such a promotion or raise didn't lead to the balance sheet result you expected? How many days forward could you survive if you stopped working today? Does the number surprise or frighten you? Term definitions. 401k as a US retirement plan developed by the ERISA Act of 1974 when companies realized they could not provide for retirees health care. Asset, something that puts money in your pocket with minimum labor. Balance sheet, the lower part of an income statement diagram, so called because it's supposed to balance assets against liabilities. Cash flow, cash coming in as income and cash going out as expenses. It is the direction of cash flow that determines whether something is income, expense, asset, or liability. Cash flow tells the story. Financial aptitude, what you do with the money once you make it, how to keep people from taking it from you, how to keep it longer, and how to make that money work hard for you. Golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rule. Income, the money that is received as a result of the normal business activities or an individual or businesses. Income statement or profit and loss statement, it measures income and expenses, money in and money out. Liability, something that takes out money out of your pocket. Mutual fund, a variety of stocks, bonds, or security grouped together, managed by a professional investment company and purchased by individual investor through shares. The share possesses no direct ownership value in the value various companies. Social security, social welfare or social insurance. program commonly funded through automatic payroll deductions to subside person in their old age and with disabilities. Next chapter is chapter 3. We have completed our chapter 2nd of book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki. Next video we will do this. Bye bye. Thank you.